It was a rainy day, the rain falling in large drops on the asphalt and on the pedestrians walking along the street at this time in the afternoon. The gloomy clouds reflected the somber mood of the people, who hurriedly shielded themselves from the weather with umbrellas and hoods. In the midst of this bustling scene, an old woman walked slowly along the same path. She seemed invisible, unnoticed and disregarded by the passersby. The drops incessantly fell on her wrinkled cheeks, soaking her worn-out clothing. Her old coat, whose original color had long faded, had patches here and there, evidence of countless repairs. Her outdated boots bore the marks of years of wear and tear, threatening to break apart at any moment. Nevertheless, the old woman continued on, undeterred, as if she carried an immeasurable inner strength. On her head, she wore a modest gray scarf, intended to protect her from the rain. It was a piece of fabric she had carefully preserved, reminding her of past times, moments of happiness and warmth. In her trembling hands, she held a crumpled piece of paper, which she looked at repeatedly. It was her ticket, her passport to another world, a world of luxury and hope. The old woman gazed relentlessly at the paper and then glanced around. The raindrops mingled with her tears, flowing silently down her wrinkled cheeks. It seems to be this place. It must be this place. The number matches. I have finally arrived, she whispered in a quivering voice, exhaling with relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She stood in front of a luxurious restaurant, rising majestically before her. Elegant people arrived in their expensive cars and entered the building with anticipation. The splendor and opulence of the place sharply contrasted with the old woman's modesty. However, she was not discouraged by her appearance, but approached with determined steps. This was the place she had long sought, the place where she wanted to fulfill her dreams. The yearning for a moment of happiness had led her here, and now she was ready to challenge her fate. The people around her still did not notice her, but she didn't care. Her determination was her compass, and nothing could stop her. With a touch of courage, the old woman stepped through the large glass doors of the restaurant and entered a world that could be both her greatest dream and her worst nightmare. "Well, this is a good time to ask for alms, my lady," mocked one of the passing men. But the words did not reach her, they seemed unimportant and meaningless in that moment. With graceful composure, she opened the huge glass door of the restaurant and entered the magnificent interior. For a brief moment, she paused, allowing her gaze to wander over the intricately decorated walls and elegant furniture before resolutely making her way to the reception desk. A young woman with a friendly face stood there, smiling just moments ago, but her expression instantly transformed into disapproval upon seeing the old woman. Her smile froze, and a clearly visible grimace of discomfort took its place. Her voice now sounded gruff as she said with a stony face, "You must have mistaken the address. I kindly request that you leave our restaurant immediately, or I will call security." The young woman's words pierced the old woman's ears like a cutting gust of wind. Her eyes, filled with hope and determination just moments ago, were veiled with disappointment. She felt the chill of the reception, which apparently did not appreciate her presence. Nevertheless, the old woman was not deterred from her goal. Her gaze was steadfast and unwavering as she calmly replied, "No, my child, I haven't made a mistake. This is the right place. Please, just listen to me for a moment." The young woman hesitated briefly, surprised by the old lady's steadfastness. However, her gaze hardened once again, and she retorted with a strained voice, "We have no use for beggars like you here. Leave the premises immediately." The pain of rejection was like a stab in the old woman's chest, but she refused to be intimidated. She sensed that she had not exhausted all possibilities to pursue her path. With a quivering voice and a touch of determination, she said, "Please, I beg you, just give me a chance. I carry a dream within me, a dream that can come to life here. Allow me to share my story and let me prove that I belong here." The young woman scrutinized the old lady intensely for a moment, as if searching for the truth in her eyes. A faint flicker of compassion appeared on her face before she reverted to the stern demeanor of the staff. I have neither the time nor the interest to deal with your stories. Leave the restaurant before I take action. The young woman's words were like a slap in the face, but the old woman didn't falter. She was determined to walk her path, to fulfill her dreams, and nothing and no one could stop her. With a saddened gaze and a final glimmer of hope in her voice, she pleaded, "Please. Let me live my dream. I have waited so long to reach this place. Let me prove that I belong here." The young woman wavered for a moment, her expression marked by an internal conflict. Finally, she sighed softly and said, "Fine, I will give you 5 minutes to tell your story. But after that, please leave the restaurant, no matter how touching your story may be." A hint of gratitude filled the old woman's eyes, and a faint smile graced her lips. The chance to tell her story was a small victory that she would seize with all her might. She took a deep breath, ready to open her heart and soul, to bring her dreams to life before those skeptical eyes. "Listen to me, young lady, I have no intention of going anywhere," the old woman replied firmly. "I have prepaid for my table and have sufficient money." What the old woman couldn't understand was why she wasn't being allowed in. "Do you consider me a vagrant? Well, my clothing may be old, but it's clean and doesn't smell bad. I have washed my hair well and have never allowed myself to beg for money from strangers, even in the most difficult moments of my life," she thought, filled with confusion. Her thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the shrill voice of the girl, "Jorge, come here." Immediately, a young man in uniform hurried over and positioned himself at the reception desk. "What's going on, Angela? Is there a problem?" he inquired with concern. "Yes, she says she absolutely must come in and has already paid for her table," replied the manager, casting a skeptical glance at the old woman. The security guard turned his gaze to the bewildered lady and calmly asked, "And what can I do for you? Please show me your ID." The old woman carefully retrieved a folded handkerchief from the inside pocket of her coat. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes radiated determination as she unfolded the handkerchief, revealing a yellow document. It was her identification, verifying her as a former employee of this restaurant. Proudly and with a hint of dignity, she handed the ID to the young man, who examined it attentively. A touch of astonishment and realization appeared on the security guard's face as he studied the ID. The words of the old woman began to slowly but powerfully resonate in the minds of the employees. She had a story to tell, a story of hard work, sacrifices, and a deep belief in the significance of this place. "I apologize for treating you that way," the security guard finally said, his voice filled with remorse. "It was a misunderstanding, and I have verified your words and your ID. You are indeed a former employee of this restaurant. Please forgive me." The old woman nodded gratefully, feeling a heavy burden lifted from her shoulders. The stern faces of the staff began to soften, and an atmosphere of curiosity and compassion spread. The people in the room suddenly recognized the truth shining in the eyes of this old woman. Angela, the manager, took a step towards the old woman and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Please, tell us your story. We want to understand who you are and what has brought you here." The old woman smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. She knew that this was the moment she had been waiting for so long. Her story would touch the hearts of people and breathe life back into the magic of this restaurant. With a calm voice, she began to speak, taking her listeners on a journey filled with memories, dreams, and hopes. And as she spoke, the old woman felt her words bringing about a transformation in the room, from skepticism to understanding, from rejection to compassion, and from separation to connection. The old walls of the restaurant began to breathe as the stories of the past and present merged together. The people around her were deeply moved by the words of the old woman. Tears flowed, but they were tears of emotion and compassion. It was a moment of healing and awakening, where the past and present blended in a harmonious melody. At the end of her story, applause erupted, causing the walls to tremble. The old wounds were healed, barriers were overcome, and the bridge between the past and present was rebuilt. The restaurant was no longer just a place of luxury and exclusivity but a place that united the stories and dreams of all people. The old woman smiled, her heart filled with deep gratitude and joy. She had found her place, fulfilled her dream, and brought the restaurant back to life. Her life and her story had the potential to touch people's hearts and bring about change. And so, the story of the old woman didn't end just within that restaurant, it spread like a warm breeze, touching the hearts of all the people who had been touched by her story. It was an unforgettable moment of humanity, proving that dreams have no boundaries and that true beauty lies in the stories and aspirations of every individual. What a captivating story! The narration of the old woman has deeply moved and touched us all. Have you ever had a similar experience or an inspiring encounter that has changed your life? Share your stories and thoughts in the comments below. We are certain that this story can move many people. If you enjoyed this narrative, we encourage you to share it with your friends and family. Let's together spread the message of hope, humanity, and the power of stories. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to not miss any new videos. We will continue to share inspiring stories, informative content, and exciting adventures with you. Be a part of our growing community and let's create a world full of stories and empathy together. Thank you for your support and enthusiasm. Together, we can make a positive change in the world. Until next time.